That's great. Thanks for having me here, and it's great. I wish I was there in person, but it's great you to accommodate me, especially with being a big week for us.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Well, let's get
One
into
of the best shows we've ever put together, I think, is that this week's the Dynamite in particular is, I think, the strongest card I can imagine, like for being a few weeks out from the pay-per-view.
So listen, let's talk. We're talking with Tony Khan right now, joining us, All Elite Wrestling, president of All Elite Wrestling, AEW. We have the big event tomorrow or today, depending on when you're looking at this. Watch this at Elmont Park or at UBS Arena, Belmont Park. Tell me what when you're breaking down these shows, by the way, tell me does it come down to the last minute of when you're actually putting together each and every fight?
Yeah, some of the things you announce weeks out, some things the week before, or maybe on Friday Night Rampage for Wednesday Night Dynamite, some things early in the week and some things the day of the show or within the show itself. I think having a lot of different announcements and a lot of different stories makes AEW really exciting and means that you have to watch AEW Dynamite on Wednesday nights on TBS and you have to catch Friday Night Rampage on TNT.
And well, listen, we have the big thing that's coming up on May 29th. Double or Nothing. Looking forward to that huge event. And there's also the Fan Fest before that. It's a whole weekend thing, right? It's not just about just one event. It's a whole thing, right?
The whole week. We're going to spend the whole week out there. We've got Wednesday Night Dynamite. We've got Friday Night Rampage. We'll be doing it a little bit earlier in the day for Rampage, I think, than normal. And then also a Fan Fest on Saturday, the pay-per-view, Memorial Day weekend, May 29th. It's the biggest event in the history of AEW. We're back where we started the company in Las Vegas, but we're in an even bigger venue now. We were in the MGM Grand when we started, had a huge sellout crowd, and it's going to be even bigger. It's the first ever $1 million gate in the history of the company on live tickets, and it's going to be our biggest show ever on pay-per-view. We have CM Punk coming in, challenging for the world title against arguably the greatest champion in the history of the company, Hangman Page, who's had incredible matches with Bryan Danielson. Of course, an incredible title win with Kenny Omega, and a pair of awesome matches with Adam Cole, Lance Archer, Dante Martin, and a lot of other great wrestlers along the way for the Hangman to becoming the champion. CM Punk, one of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. This is a huge match for the world title, and it's such a huge card already coming together, including a women's world title match with the champion Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb, which is a match people have really been looking forward to seeing again. It was a match when they both arrived in AEW. We saw a couple years ago, and it was one of the best matches we had on TV. And now Thunder Rosa, the great champion, a year after her big win in the Lights Out match over Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, she had another big win, this time one that counted in the record books in the cage match for the world title at St. Patrick's Day Slam 2. And we've got MJF versus his former bodyguard, Wardlow.
Let's go.
Going to be huge, and we're on Long Island tomorrow at UBS Arena, which is not kind of on the border there, and where the Islanders play and where MJF hails from. And it'll be very interesting to see how the crowd receives MJF and how they receive Wardlow. I also think it'll be very interesting to see how the crowd receives CM Punk, because CM Punk is wrestling on the show against another hometown guy, John Silver. And we'll see how the crowd receives CM Punk, John Silver, Hangman, MJF, Wardlow, and so many other huge matches up and down the card.
Tony, listen, the one thing that I love about this is your excitement for what you do, the way that you put together cards, the rosters and stuff like that. But let's be honest, the fact that CM Punk and all these locals that are here right now, and the fact that you've gotten, say, even like a Paige Van Zandt, tell me what is there no limit to who you want to bring into AEW? Who is the next big star that you're really trying to grab in?
We'd love to have stars from all over sports and entertainment all over the world, not exclusive to any sport or entertainment property. We've had great TV and movie stars come in, great athletes, and nothing could top Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, being involved in AEW, who was one of the most generous people on and off screen with his time, and he came in and did so much for us, but other people as well. And we've had athletes cross over, college and pro. College athlete Jade Cargill came in, a basketball player down in Jacksonville, where I'm from, who's come in and now undefeated, dominant TBS champion. And also to have a great roster of people up and down with mixed backgrounds, some people athletic and some people primarily just focus on pro wrestling, and great athletes that love the sport up and down, no matter how long they've been in it. We've got some of the most experienced, legendary pro wrestlers of all time, from Sting, who is really the last great star of that generation that so many of us grew up on. CM Punk coming back to the business after being out 7 years is one of the biggest stories in wrestling recently by far. And then all the great free agents who've come into AEW, whether it was Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, people who had a big choice and decided to come to AEW, or people who got let go, great wrestlers who were able to get out, like Ruby Soho, and Tony Storm has come to us now. And then also so many great people along the way. It's great to have William Regal here now. Jeff Hardy is wrestling in a huge match tomorrow against one of the pillars and young stars of AEW since the beginning, Darby Allin. Another one of those pillars, Jungle Boy, is challenging a top star who came in during the pandemic, the FTW champion, Ricky Starks. That's going to be a great match. And I'm really excited to have Adam Cole, who I mentioned is a free agent, wrestling one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, Dax Harwood, in an Owen Hart Cup match. And the Owen Hart Cup is starting tomorrow night here in New York on Long Island, or UBS Arena. It's very accessible. And I'm very excited for this show. We're going to have a great crowd live and on TV for what's going to be a great night of wrestling. And first and foremost, you got to talk about Adam Cole versus Dax Harwood. What a great match. And the Owen Hart Cup tournament's only going to get better and bigger as we go.
Well, listen, being a Bret Hart fan, Bret Hart was always my favorite wrestler growing up. So when Owen Hart passed away, that was devastating. But I love what you guys are doing. You've latched on to that. You brought that in, and that's something that's really nice. And again, it can relate to a lot of fans, especially my age specifically, can relate to that. But there's two fighters in particular I want to talk about. Okay, so first of all, Eddie Kingston. What is his role going forward? Where do you see his plans? Because that's my boy. We grew up together. So I literally remember him bouncing. Literally, I've interviewed him plenty of times now, but I was in his house and he just doing moves off the top rope of his couch, top rope. You know what I mean? Like, Eddie Kingston is just a purebred personality. I love that you brought him in. What's your role for him?
I love Eddie Kingston. He's a huge part of the company right now. He's in one of the top rivalries in all of pro wrestling against the foremost sports entertainer, Chris Jericho. And it's so exciting because Eddie Kingston's getting this chance in front of the fans now. He's been on national TV for a couple of years, and it's been less than a year. We've been back on tour. We're here in Eddie Kingston's home city. I'm in New York right now, and we'll be up on Long Island, not far from where Eddie Kingston lived and grew up. And all the fans are going to support him. And I know Chris Jericho's got this victory speech about his big win over Santana. And, I got to say, not just Santana, but also Ortiz and specifically Eddie Kingston, those guys are going to have something to say about it. Eddie Kingston got burned with a fireball by Chris Jericho. He made a phone call, a very personal phone call to Chris Jericho, who's a commentator on Friday Night Rampage. We were in a special time slot this week. We've been affected by NBA playoffs there. So it's been good to have some really entertaining things like that. When Eddie Kingston called in and demanded that I put him through to Chris Jericho at the commentary desk and told him what he thought. And it'll be interesting to see how people respond to Eddie Kingston. I think he's, safe to say, a hometown favorite in New York and a great wrestler, and wrestling a Chris Jericho, who is the best Chris Jericho we've had in AEW. This is the best version of Jericho. Chris has lost over 30 pounds and he had a health scare and came back, to me, better than he's ever been in AEW, which is saying something because he's the first world champion ever in AEW and arguably the biggest star in the history of the company.
Wow. And then the other fight that I'm really interested in, because again, Tony, I'm huge into MMA. When I saw all the guys and girls from American Top Team come over and just start like doing cameos, I was like, this is awesome. And then you guys go get Paige Van Zandt. And I love Paige Van Zandt. I think she's fantastic, whether it's MMA, bare knuckle fighting, you bring her in. When do we see her fighting in her first match?
Paige Van Zandt could happen soon. I think she's training for pro wrestling and MMA. She's a bare knuckle fighter. I've seen her fight in person. A lot of the AEW stars a while back went to one of Paige Van Zandt's fights, including Dr. Britt Baker, Paul White, Cash Wheeler, Christian Cage, a number of other people went and scouted her out, we saw Paige Van Zant's very tough, both in the ring and a great mindset, clearly out of the ring. She's trained so hard, and along with American Top Team, she's been so successful, and there's such a great stable of champions that Dan Lambert manages and oversees. Of course, Arlovsky, the all-time win leader, is very hot. He's come and fought for us. Dos Santos is an amazing, amazing fighter. He broke my rib, but he's a wonderful human. And then we have Jorge Masvidal, who's such a huge personality, has been great for us, and has appeared for us and has been backstage and at the shows, and is, of course, been a great BMF champion and a great fighter known throughout the world and a household name to anybody who's ever watched the fights. And now to have Paige Van Zant competing here, it's a big deal. We've seen, again, Dos Santos and Arlovsky and Dan Lambert himself get in the ring. And I think, Paige Van Zant, it could be soon, and something to look out for sure. So there's a lot of exciting things happening on Long Island. Of course, the Owen Hart Cup tournament kicking off. It's a historic night. There's still some tickets available at UBS Arena, and it's going to be a great night of pro wrestling. We have a great crowd here, and we've done as well or better than anybody in terms of tickets here in this market in New York, which is really exciting because we've only been really able to come up here since the pandemic. It's been great so far.
A few more questions with Tony Khan right now. Talking about like the fact that ATT came over and really worked well. Dan Lambert is somebody who is a key piece to this too, because I feel like he's been such a huge supporter of pro wrestling. Guy like even Colby Covington, you see him back in the day, always trying to be involved in pro wrestling and stuff like that. Was he the main? Who actually launched? Who did you talk to first from ATT to kind of connect? Was it Dan Lambert or was it somebody else?
It was Dan Lambert, Jorge Masvidal, and his management, the Kawas. And Dan's my good friend. He's become my good friend through the pandemic. The second Double or Nothing 2020, of course, we're coming back for the fourth Double or Nothing, the 3-year anniversary of the company. And it's the start of a really new era. This company, I think, with all these new stars coming in, we've announced a partnership going forward with New Japan Pro Wrestling. And we've done 3 pay-per-views since all these big stars debuted: Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, and Adam Cole, Ruby Soho, many others. And then all the ones that have come in since, like Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland, Tony Storm, and Jeff Hardy, among many others. And now it's all coming together for Double or Nothing, coming back to Las Vegas where it all began 3 years ago, the fourth Double or Nothing. It's shaping up to be one of the biggest nights in the history of the company for sure. And things are setting off here on Long Island tomorrow night, Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS. It starts live at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be a great show.
And Double or Nothing, and even tomorrow night's show at the UBS Arena. Again, like I asked you earlier on in the interview, making decisions last minute. What comes in last minute?
Well, things happen all the time. People get injured. One of the great tag teams, for example, Darius Martin had just returned from injury, and now he's going to be out for a while again, unfortunately hurt. But the most important thing is he's okay, and he'll be back with us. And his brother Dante, for the second time, started out in the company as a 19-year-old, and he's one of the youngest wrestlers in the business, but he has a lot of TV experience for such a young wrestler, and it bodes really well for him as a single and for them as a team when Darius comes back. But they're a team I really had plans for and do have plans for the future. So that's an example. Anthony Bowens, another great wrestler who's been on TV a ton also, and singles and tags with the Acclaimed and his partner Max Caster, which is an act that has really developed and grown and become one of the top tag teams in all of pro wrestling, with Max Caster and Anthony Bowens, the Acclaimed. But Anthony being injured, it's unfortunate, and he's just been on this great run of matches. He's wrestled on television against Jungle Boy, Bryan Danielson, John Moxley, Darby Allin, and many others in great singles matches, and had great tag teams against all the top teams like Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, the Young Bucks, and so many others. And I think to have Anthony back will be great for us too. But those are both people that have been out injured that may not be ready for Double or Nothing. So things change all the time with the cards, and we'll see. The tournament's going to come down to the wire, and it's going to be some of the most exciting television, the Owen Hart Cup, and nobody knows who's going to be in it. There's 7 people on each side of the bracket right now that have been announced. It's an 8-person bracket. We've got one wild card, the Joker, as you call it, the wild card entrant on each side. And the whole tournament starts with some of the most exciting anticipated matches in the tournament, including the ones we mentioned, and Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter, which is a match people have really been looking forward to. We saw a preview of it in this great tag team match with Toni Storm and Ruby Soho getting the win over Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the former world champion, and her partner, Jamie Hayter. And specifically one-on-one, I think people really want to see Jamie Hayter versus Toni Storm.
What's more difficult, last minute scheduling with the wrestling, or last minute draft talk with Trayvon Walker going? Was it close, or was that always the go-to for you guys?
It was very strong opinions in the room, and I think the conversations with the analytics people and with Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson, we talked about it a lot, and those guys felt very strong. And there's some analytics and measurables that really positive on Trayvon that was very consistent with what Trent and Doug were saying. And it's just so great to have Doug in the building. The communication with Doug and the coaches has been so good, and I think we have a great young group of players, especially after this draft, with Trevor Lawrence leading the offense and a lot of great young players, including Trayvon, Devin, a lot of great players that have joined us recently. So it's awesome. And with a combination of free agents, Christian Kirk on offense, and so many great players across offense and defense. Brandon Scherf, who's a player I remember scouting, seems like a long time ago, but he's had a great career in the NFL since he came out of Iowa. I went to Purdue, drove up to watch him play. And Christian Kirk went down to Gainesville to watch him play when he was in Florida, playing at Florida. And so I really love the group of players, and especially now the chemistry of everybody in the building with the players and the coaches and the staff around the building. It's great times for us.
And do you think that, like, you saw how
So by the way, the wrestling I think more, because we talked around the draft. So you asked, changes around wrestling, it's always hard with injuries and stuff. And when you have injuries in football too, but not probably right before the game, sometimes the week of practice leading up to the game. And that's really challenging for Doug and everybody, and trying to chip in as an analytics department, supporting him, the stuff I do day to day with the Jags. Sorry. So anyway, if that answers your question.
No, that's all good. Give me right now the biggest person that, if there's one person that you need to see at AEW, who is the biggest personality that it's a can't miss? You have to watch no matter what, whether it's tomorrow at the UBS Arena or a Double or Nothing, May 29th. Who is the can't miss fighter right now for you, Tony?
Would it be fair to give one in the men's division and one in the women's division?
Of course.
Okay. So I would say in the men's division, Jon Moxley, who is a former AEW world champion. He's in the Blackpool Combat Club with arguably the greatest wrestler of all time, Bryan Danielson, who's a huge free agent. Lord William Regal, who's one of the great minds and one of the great wrestlers internationally and here in America, and is one of the most popular British wrestlers of all time. And then to have a young prospect, Wheeler Yuta, who's going to go and do an excursion in Japan for us, but is also a champion in Ring of Honor and one of the best prospects. That group, they really have something going. And Jon Moxley's back with us. He was out for a while, and he's back, and he's better than ever. He looks amazing in the ring, out of the ring. It's just so great to have him back. And I personally love him, and the fans love Jon Moxley. And anytime he's on screen, it's a big thing for us. So watch out for Jon Moxley tomorrow night on Wednesday Night Dynamite. Watch out for Jon Moxley every week on Wednesday Night Dynamite or Friday Night Rampage, where he's had some great matches. He had his comeback matches and came back on Rampage, and recently had one of the best matches in the history of Rampage, and one of the best matches we've ever had on television against Wheeler Yuta, and really the beginning of what is now the Blackpool Combat Club. So Jon Moxley would be one. The other one would be the undefeated TBS champion, Jade Cargill, who I think is must watch. She's got so much around her. She's building a following. She's got people following her in every city, her baddies. And Jade is one of the most engaging, entertaining personalities, somebody who stands out, whether you're a fan of wrestling or not. You see Jade and how incredible of a presence she is. She's got so much charisma, physical strength, size, agility, and is a great accomplished athlete, and is learning so quickly in and out of the ring as to be a great pro wrestler and a great pro wrestling champion. And she's undefeated so far. And one of the most impressive people in pro wrestling, I think, is Jade Cargill. So
Well,
I guess my
listen.
must-see would be Jon Moxley and Jade Cargill.
Perfect. Listen, we're looking forward to it tomorrow night at UBS Arena. You got the Dynamite Rampage both, and then also Double or Nothing coming up May 29th. Looking forward to that. Tony Khan, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. And anything else you want to promote before we let you go, my friend?
Oh, I just, again, Wednesday Night Dynamite on TBS, 8 o'clock Eastern. We'll be at UBS. You could either watch it on TBS in prime time or come to UBS Arena. We'll still have tickets, and it's going to be a historic night of pro wrestling to honor the late, great Owen Hart and have some of the biggest matches and dream matches like Dax Harwood versus Adam Cole, Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter, and Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy, plus get to see CM Punk versus John Silver, Jungle Boy versus Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship, MJF Wardlow contract signing, Jericho and the Jericho Appreciation Society, and to have, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, Lord Regal, they'll all be on site with so many of the biggest stars in pro wrestling. We know we've got this big world title match coming, Serena Deeb versus Thunder Rosa. So much to come with the Owen Hart tournament for the women and the men. We'll crown a King of Hearts and a Queen of Hearts. We'll have something very special to celebrate at Double or Nothing. And I can't wait for that show, the World Championships, the women's world title, Serena versus Thunder Rosa, and of course the World Championship match between Hangman Page and CM Punk. It's the biggest month in pro wrestling for AEW, and I'm excited for us and our fans, and I'm just really glad to be back in New York.
Well, we're excited that you're back too, and we love when you return. Hopefully, you guys return soon again. Again, Tony Khan, thank you so much for the time, man. I appreciate it. Be safe, okay?
Thanks, Pete.
Take care, Tony. Really, thank you. Talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, buddy. It's great to see you, man.
Definitely, man. We'll talk soon, okay? I'm looking forward to it. Listen, when are you guys gonna do a big pay-per-view back in New York again? Are you guys working on that?
I'm gonna look at it. I'm definitely gonna plan. I'm planning one though.
Let's go. That's what we're looking for. We always want big events here.
It does up here in the tri-state area.
Yeah, dude, love it, dude. Listen, Tony, again, thank you so much. Be safe, okay?
Let's fucking go, man.
I love it. Talk to you later.